Hello, this is Barry Nirmal. Please subscribe to my channel by clicking on the subscribe link below. Hello friends, in this video I will read my essay whose title is How did China become a superpower and what is its future? The West, especially the USA, is terribly terrified of China. The reason is that in just a few decades, China has been transformed from a poor country ruled by a communist dictatorship into a superpower. It has become the second largest economy in the world. Its scientific achievements are so miraculous that it is building its own space station, while the other space station is due to partnership between USA and Russia. It has become the first country to land its spacecraft on the far side of the moon, which has sent amazing photos from there. It is highly advanced in artificial intelligence and in 5G technologies. It has built hypersonic missiles in which the USA is lagging while Russia is very advanced. In order to understand China's present, we have to understand its past. China became a dictatorship ruled by the Chinese Communist Party in 1949. The communists lie through their teeth that theirs is a true democracy, while the democracy in the West is fake. But the truth is that in communist countries, the masses have little freedom of expression, while the real power lies in the top committee of the Communist Party called Politburo, and in the hands of its top leader, who may be called chairman or president or general secretary. Mao Zedong was called chairman, while Stalin was called general secretary. Xi Jinping is the president of China, and he is also the general secretary of the Communist Party. Both Mao and Stalin were de facto dictators whom nobody dared to challenge. The Communist Party of China was founded in 1921. It was a time when China as a country was in very bad shape. Corruption was rampant. Central government was weak. Warlords were running amok. The Chinese Communist Party originally worked with the Nationalist Party led by Chiang Kai-shek. Chinese communists joined with the Nationalist Army in the Northern Expedition of 1926 to 1927 to rid the nation of the warlords that prevented the formation of a strong central government. This collaboration lasted until the White Terror of 1927, when the nationalists turned on the communists, killing them in thousands. After Japan invaded Manchuria in 1931, the government of China faced the triple threat of Japanese invasion, communist uprising, and warlord insurrections. Frustrated by the focus of the nationalist leader Chiang Kai-shek on internal threats instead of Japanese assault, a group of generals abducted Chiang Kai-shek in 1937 and forced him to reconsider national cooperation with the Communist Party. As with the first effort at cooperation between the nationalist government and the CCP, this second United Front was also short-lived. The nationalists expended all their resources on defeating the communists rather than focusing entirely on Japan, while the communists worked to strengthen their influence in the rural society. Also, Chiang Kai-shek was fully supported by the US government and the West, whose main worry was the communists. The West was terribly afraid of communists coming to power in China, and they supported Chiang Kai-shek totally. During World War II, popular support for the communists increased. US officials in China reported a dictatorial suppression of dissent in nationalist controlled areas. These undemocratic policies, combined with wartime corruption, made the Republic of China government vulnerable to the communist threat. The Communist Party, for its part, experienced success in its early efforts at land reform and was supported by the peasants for its unflagging efforts to fight against the Japanese invaders. So people supported the communists because they wanted a strong central government which could unify the country to fight foreign powers like Japan and Britain that were dominating China. Britain was in control of the industrial city of Shanghai, which hurt Chinese pride. The communists also promised to get rid of corruption and make China great again, just as in the USA, Donald Trump raised the slogan of Make America Great Again, or MAGA. It is true that after coming to power, the Communist Party got rid of corruption and unified the country by establishing a strong central government backed by a strong military, that is the Red Army. But the economy was very weak. They spent their resources on the armed forces while people became poorer. The country's sole financial and military backer was the Soviet Union. Mao Zedong ruled the country like a dictator because he had led the revolution from the beginning. Mao Zedong became like a god, and whatever he said was treated as if coming straight from the mouth of God. He launched the Great Leap Forward, which was a disaster. Millions of people starved to death, but even USA or Japan did not dare to intervene because Mao's China had the support of the Soviet Union, and it had a strong Red Army with which it had established its rule. But fortunately for China, Mao died in 1976. After a brief period, Deng Xiaoping became the paramount leader. The first thing he did was to arrest the Gang of Four, which included Mao's wife. These people were sent to rot in the jail for years, where some of them committed suicide. Deng Xiaoping argued that it did not matter if the cat was white or black, as long as it catched mice. His logic was that what is important was to bring economic prosperity to the people, even if it meant introducing capitalism. So, in 1978, Deng Xiaoping ushered in sweeping political reforms that totally transformed China. These reforms gave the following to China. Number one, adopted a free market economy. Number two, adopted elements of Western democracy. Number three, gave the Chinese people unprecedented level of freedom. Number four, opened up the country to Western business and cultural influence. Today, Mao must be turning in his grave. China is not a communist country. Just because it is led by the Communist Party of China does not mean that it is a communist society. The Communist Manifesto, written by Marx and Engels, promised to end private ownership of land and factories. This is why both Stalin and Mao, who were true communists, launched programs and initiatives backed by state power that eliminated private ownership of land and factories. Also, starting around 1990, the West, including USA, supported communist China by closing their own factories and importing all kinds of goods manufactured in China. China has been the largest exporter of goods in the world since 2009. Nearly a third of the world's goods are made in China. China leads the global manufacturing industry based on United Nations figures. Today, the only products that the USA makes are military hardware, iPhones, Boeing jets, and a few others like Tesla. Everything else that people buy in USA and the West are imported from China. As a result, China has become filthy rich. Even though US dollar remains the reserve currency, China has huge foreign exchange, and its currency is expected to displace US dollar and become reserve currency of the world. The Chinese political system remains weak. Its leader, Xi Jinping, declared himself leader for life. This means he is basically a dictator. History proves that dictators do not have a good future. The US, British, and French political systems have been stable for centuries, while dictatorships like Stalin's came to an end, and the Soviet system also collapsed like a deck of cards around 1990. The very fact that Xi Jinping had to declare himself a lifelong leader means that the political system in China is weak. Xi Jinping no doubt has done a lot to curb corruption at high levels in China, but what will happen if he is overthrown? China does not have a tried and tested political process to ensure political continuity like in the USA, Britain, and France. Stalin's military defeated the Nazis with help from Britain and USA, and the Soviets conquered many countries of Eastern Europe, and they established the Warsaw Pact. Stalin actually controlled most of Eastern Europe after 1945. Stalin had never imagined that the political system he established would collapse in less than 50 years. USA is strong because it has very little corruption, and it has a constitution and a tried and tested political system based on its constitution. The Constitution guarantees people their freedoms and their rights, like freedom of expression and religious freedom. China has eliminated high-level corruption, but it lacks a constitution and a tried and tested political system based on such a constitution that guarantees people their basic rights and freedom. People in China have no religious freedom. The Muslims in China, called the Uyghurs, are persecuted and are forced not to name their children Muhammad and are banned from growing beards. Such violations of religious freedom are a sign of a weak political system. I hope that a political leader will emerge in China who will establish a constitution that grants people their fundamental freedoms and rights, including religious rights, to believe or not to believe in any religion. This constitution will also lay down rules for political transition. A multi-party system will be best for China. The Chinese ruling party must stop calling itself communist. A communist party may not be Leninist, but it must be Marxist. Karl Marx preached in his Communist Manifesto that communists will abolish private ownership of land and factories. Since private ownership of land and factories has enabled China to become a superpower, the CPC, that is the Communist Party of China, can call itself by any other name except communist. Thank you very much. Hello. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please do so by clicking on the subscribe link below. Also write your comments in the comment section below. Spread the word. You can share this video with your friends by clicking on the share button below, and you can share it with WhatsApp, with Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and by sending email to your friends.